Do you even know where the AAA batteries are in this drawer? John didn't look up from his phone. He leaned against the workbench, scrolling rapidly. The blue light washed out his face in the dim garage light. I sifted through rusted nails, old rubber bands, and dried-up glue sticks. I felt sawdust under my fingernails. The hallway smoke detector chirped every 10 minutes for 2 days, and the sound drove me crazy. Check the blue bin, John said. He didn't move. I already checked it. It's empty, he sighed. It was a long, loud sound that told me I was bothering him. He still didn't look at me. Digging deeper into the junk drawer, I brushed against my phone. It buzzed against the wooden ledge. I pulled it out, expecting a work email or a text from the neighborhood group. Instead, I saw a notification from the Ring camera. The timestamp said 3:04 a.m. The clip showed the front door opening slowly, then closing. John stepped out into the night, wearing a dark hoodie and sneakers. He didn't look back. 5 minutes later, another clip showed him, returning at 3:12 a.m. He slid back inside with a cautiousness that looked like he was breaking into his own house. I stared at the screen, then looked at John. He was still scrolling. Where were you at 3 in the morning on Tuesday? John finally looked up. He blinked and looked confused. What are you talking about? The Ring camera. You left the house and came back 10 minutes later. He shifted his weight and glanced toward the door. I think I just checked the perimeter. I thought I heard a coyote near the fence. In a hoodie? At 3 in the morning? It was cold, Catherine. Honestly, making this a thing. I didn't push it. I just went back to the drawer, though the batteries didn't matter anymore. It takes 40 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store or pharmacy from our property. We live on the rural edge of town, where the road turns into gravel, and the neighbors are just distant lights in the trees. Every errand is a production. If I forget milk, I spend nearly 90 minutes in the car. That distance used to feel peaceful, but now it feels like a cage. My work schedule is a nightmare. I handle logistics for a medical supply firm, and my boss views a 10-minute delay as a personal betrayal. If I miss a Monday morning sync or fail to log in by 7 a.m. sharp, I lose my performance bonus. With the mortgage on a place this size, that bonus is the only thing keeping us from dipping into the kids' college funds. To the other women in our cul-de-sac, I'm the one who has it all together. I post photos of fresh peonies and choose joy quotes on the neighborhood Facebook page. I play the live laugh love part so the other moms trust me with their kids and their secrets. I smile and tell them how lucky I am to have John, even while I wonder why he's sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night. A few days after the garage incident, I checked the joint bank statement. I told myself I was just budgeting for our anniversary. I don't buy things from industrial supply stores. What's this charge for? I asked him that evening. He stood in the kitchen, pouring a glass of water. John paused with the pitcher hovering over the glass. Oh, that. The gutter guards on the north side sagged. I had to get some heavy-duty brackets. I walked outside to the north side of the house. I climbed the ladder and squinted at the gutters. I saw new shiny brackets holding the metal in place. It was a boring household errand. A completely normal expense. I felt a surge of guilt for doubting him. I went back inside and apologized, telling him I was just stressed about work. Then came our wedding anniversary. John planned a dinner in the city, which meant a long drive and an even longer night. He acted unusually attentive. He brought me lilies and kissed my cheek. He even made a special pasta dish before we left, which he rarely does. While I was in the bathroom getting ready, the mail carrier came. I usually let John handle the mail, but the carrier left the box open. A thick white envelope slid halfway out onto the porch. I picked it up. The envelope didn't have my name on it, and it didn't have John's name on it. It had my 8-year-old daughter Maya's name on it. I frowned, thinking it was a letter from a grandparent or a themed birthday card. I opened it slowly. I found a formal notice from a debt collection agency. This wasn't a mistake or a marketing ploy. It was a final demand for payment, for a high-interest loan of $12,000. He had opened the account in Maya's name using her social security number. I sat down on the porch step. My hand trembled. I looked at the date of the loan. He took it out 6 months ago. The front door opened behind me. John stood there in his suit, looking polished and perfect. Ready to go? He asked. I held up the letter. Why is a debt collector writing to our daughter? I held up the letter. Why is a debt collector writing to our daughter? John didn't take the paper. He stood there, scanning the envelope before looking at me. He shifted his weight, his dress shoes clicking on the porch wood. It's a mistake, he said. He reached out and tried to push the letter back toward me. Probably identity theft. It happens all the time now. It's a final demand for $12,000, John. They have her social security number. He sighed. He looked at his watch, then back at me, his expression softening into something that looked like pity. I don't know what to tell you. I'll call the company on Monday. Honestly, Catherine, you're spiraling. We have reservations. Do you really want to spend our anniversary fighting over a clerical error? I checked the banking app on my phone. I saw a charge from Tuesday for $42 at the hardware store. It looked like a boring, everyday errand, maybe some mulch or a new light fixture. And for a second, I let myself believe he was right. I wondered if I was just being paranoid. The drive into the city took nearly an hour. I sat in the passenger seat, staring at the blur of cornfields and gravel shoulders, and I crumpled the letter in my lap. Every time I tried to bring it up, he changed the subject to the menu or a story about work. He acted as if the conversation never happened, or as if I were the one being irrational. At the restaurant, I slid the live, laugh love mask back on. We sat under dim lights with a bottle of expensive red wine between us. When the waitress asked how we were celebrating, I smiled. I told her it was our anniversary, my voice sounding bright and hollow. I took a photo of our appetizers and posted it to the neighborhood group with a heart emoji and the caption blessed it. Inside, my stomach churned. I kept thinking about Maya. She was 8. She didn't even know what a loan was, but someone used her existence to borrow $12,000. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted. I checked the clock. It was 6:15 a.m. I had to log into my medical supply sync by 7 a.m. sharp. If I was late, my manager would note it in the performance log, and I would lose my quarterly bonus. I couldn't afford to lose that money. I owed property taxes on our rural lot in October, and the mortgage was a beast. While John was in the shower, I went into his small home office. I didn't feel like a spy. I just felt like a mother who needed to know why a collection agency was hunting her daughter. I started with the filing cabinet. I ignored the folders labeled taxes and insurance and looked for the boring stuff. The utility bills and random receipts he usually let me handle. I found a manila folder tucked under a stack of old car registration papers. Inside, I found 3 more letters. They came from different lenders, but each one addressed Maya or our son, Leo. The amounts varied. 6,000 here, 8,000 there. I sat on the floor, the cold linoleum pressing into my thighs. This wasn't a clerical error. It was a pattern. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Carly Leach, John's brother-in-law. Carly had been John's roommate in college, part of that tight-knit circle of frat buddies who still treated John like a king. Hey, Catherine, just checking in. John mentioned you've been a bit stressed lately. Just remember he's doing his best for the family. Don't let the little things get to you. Love you guys. I stared at the screen. I hadn't told Carly about the letter. I hadn't told anyone. I called him right then. He picked up on the second ring, his voice loud and breezy. Hey, you caught me right before a meeting, Carly said. Why did you text me that, Carly? What did John tell you? He paused. I heard a car door slam in the background. I mean, he just mentioned you've been on edge. You know how he gets, just wanting everything to be perfect for the anniversary. Honestly, Catherine, you're probably just overworked. Why don't you take a weekend off? Go to a spa or something. He's taking loans out in the kids' names, Carly. Carly laughed, a short, sharp burst of air. John's a good guy. He's always been a little messy with the paperwork. He probably just moved some money around. It's not a big deal. Just trust him. He hung up on me. I sat back against the desk. The silence of the house felt oppressive. I looked out the window at the long winding driveway that led to the main road. A sudden sharp panic hit me. If I packed the kids into the car and drove away right now, where would I go? My parents lived 3 states away. The nearest hotel sat 40 minutes in the opposite direction of my office. I thought about the logistics of a week-long stay. I would have to pay for a room out of pocket, and I couldn't miss a single day of work without risking my income. I didn't have a secret account. Everything went into the joint fund. I looked at the folders on the floor and realized I didn't even know how much money stayed in our savings. I heard the shower stop. The pipes had groaned in the walls. I scrambled to put the folders back exactly where I found them. My hands shook so hard I nearly ripped the manila paper. I slid the drawer shut just as John walked into the room, smelling of soap and peppermint. He looked at me, his eyes narrowing. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine," I said, my voice cracking. "Just checking if you'd seen the mail from the electric company." He didn't answer. He walked over and put his hand on my shoulder, squeezing a little too hard. "I'll take care of everything, Catherine. Just stop worrying." I stood there, frozen, as he walked out of the room. I reached into the drawer and pulled out a single piece of paper. I'd managed to palm a payment schedule for a loan from a company I'd never heard of. I folded it into a small square and tucked it into the waistband of my leggings. Pressing the paper against my hip, I stood still and listened to John's footsteps fade down the hall toward the kitchen. I forced my breathing to slow. I glanced at the clock. It was 6:38 a.m. I had 22 minutes remaining before my login window opened. Missing that 7 a.m. sync meant my manager would mark me as unexcused, costing me the quarterly bonus. That money was the only thing preventing a massive deficit on the October property taxes. For now, I had to be an employee, not a detective. Stepping into the kitchen, I found John by the coffee maker with his back to me, humming something low. I usually found the smell of brewing coffee comforting, but today I found it distracting. "Coffee's almost done," he said, without turning around. I replied. My voice sounded thin. Pouring a cup, I looked at Maya and Leo. They sat at the table in their pajamas, eating cereal in a silence too heavy for a Tuesday. I felt a sudden urge to grab them and leave. But the 40-minute drive to the nearest hotel and the weekly cost of a room stopped me. I didn't have a dime that wasn't tied to him. I spent the rest of the morning on spreadsheets and logistics calls. Sitting in my home office with the door locked, I kept the payment schedule tucked into my leggings. The sound of John moving in the hallway made me stiffen. For 3 hours, I coordinated medical supply shipments to clinics in Dayton and Cincinnati, typing confirmed and shipped, while wondering how many thousands of dollars my children's futures were actually worth. Around noon, I went to the mudroom to clear some clutter. This mindless task helped maintain the perfect home image I projected to the neighborhood Facebook group. Moving a stack of old boots, I found a small, heavy-duty plastic lockbox tucked behind a row of winter coats. A gray industrial box with a combination dial sat there. I remembered a $42 charge from the hardware store on the joint statement. John had called it gutter brackets. I pulled the box out but found no brackets inside. No screws, no metal, no sawdust. After trying a few common combinations, our anniversary, the kids' birthdays, nothing worked. Then, I tried the last 4 digits of John's old college phone number from a yearbook I'd seen years ago. I turned the dial until it clicked and popped the lid open. Inside, I found a prescription bottle for a heavy-duty sedative used for severe insomnia. The label didn't list John's name. It listed Carly Leach. Tucked under the bottle, I found a note on a piece of yellow legal pad. I recognized Carly's loopy, arrogant handwriting. 2 drops in the dinner or the wine. She won't wake up until the sun is high. Just keep it consistent so she doesn't notice the grogginess. I've got your back, man. Stay loyal. I sank onto the mudroom floor. I felt the cold tiles seep through my clothes as my hands went limp. I thought about the special pasta John made before our anniversary dinner. I remembered falling asleep almost instantly that night, and the other nights where I woke up feeling completely foggy. I connected the Ring camera footage from Tuesday, the 3 a.m. exit, to this discovery. He wasn't checking for coyotes. He left the house while I was chemically unconscious, and Carly had provided the means. A floorboard creaked behind me. Slamming the lockbox shut, I shoved it back behind the coats just as John stepped into the mudroom. He held a laundry basket, his expression neutral. "What are you doing back here?" he asked. He didn't move closer, but he watched me. "Just cleaning," I said, standing up slowly to brush dust off my leggings. "I think I left some of the kids' socks in here." John looked at the coats, then back at me. He sighed. That same long dismissive sound he used in the garage. "You're acting weird, Catherine. Honestly, the stress from work is making you erratic. Maybe you should actually take that break, Carly suggested. Without waiting for an answer, he turned and walked back toward the laundry room. Once he left, my heart hammered against my collarbone. I lived in a house with a man who drugged me to hide a financial crime. A glance at my phone showed a 1 p.m. sync in 10 minutes. Instead of returning to my desk, I went to the kitchen to grab the payment schedule and take a photo. Then, I returned to the mudroom, opened the lockbox, and photographed the prescription bottle and Carly's note. I uploaded the images to a secure cloud folder I'd created years ago for work archives. Something John didn't know existed. My hands shook, but I focused on the logistics. Opening our joint banking app, I ignored the balance and checked the recent transfers. Several payments went to a company called Apex Credit Solutions. I didn't recognize the name, but the amounts matched the loan letters in the manila folder. I started a list in my notes app. 1. Find a lawyer who doesn't know John. 2. Figure out how to move the kids without him noticing. 3. Check if the property taxes are actually paid. The house remained quiet, but it felt like a countdown. In the living room, the kids laughed, oblivious to the fact that he sold their identities for a few $1,000s and sedated their mother to keep it a secret. My phone buzzed. Someone in the neighborhood Facebook group posted a photo of a new garden gnome and asked for landscaper recommendations. I stared at the screen, thinking about the blessed photo I'd posted on our anniversary. After hitting send on a generic reply, I locked my phone and leaned against the counter, listening to John whistle in the other room. That whistling was the worst part. He sounded casual, as if he were deciding on dinner rather than the fact that he'd been chemically knocking me out to steal from our kids. Nausea surged. After standing still for several minutes, I walked into the living room and sat on the edge of the sofa. I waited for him to come in. A few days prior, a weird charge had appeared on the joint account, something at a hardware store in the next town over. When I questioned it, he showed me a new set of HVAC filters. I didn't bring it up again. Because of that, I almost ignored the lockbox, spending a week telling myself it was just paranoia. Holding a stack of mail, John finally entered the room. He avoided my eyes. While walking to the side table, he started sorting through the envelopes. I think the lawn needs a mow, he said, keeping his eyes on the mail. The lockbox, John. He stopped moving, his hand clamped on a utility bill. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then, he slowly set the mail down and turned around. He didn't look scared. He looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted a movie. He started shifting his weight. Things got out of hand. I had a plan to pay it all back before you ever noticed. Honestly, I did it for us. For the house. You drugged me. He sighed and looked at the ceiling. You were so stressed, Catherine. You were spiraling. I just wanted some peace in the house. Carly had the meds, and she thought it would help you sleep. It was for your own good. Instead of arguing, I held up my phone to show him the cloud folder. The screen displayed photos of the bottle, the note from Carly, and the Apex credit transfers. I told him I'd already researched how to report identity theft for minors. His face shifted. The annoyance vanished, replaced by a frantic, breathless energy. He stepped toward me, but I leaned back, forcing him to stop. Wait, if you go to the police, or the bank, I lose everything. The house goes. The kids lose their stability. Do you really want that? I want my children's credit scores back, I said. For the next 3 hours, we spoke in clinical terms. No one cried or screamed. Sitting at the kitchen table with a legal pad, we treated our marriage like a failing business merger. My job in medical supply sink provided stability, but missing a single shift risked my income. Meanwhile, John's company provided the health insurance covering Leo's asthma treatments and Maya's orthodontics. Filing for divorce immediately would mean Cobra premiums eating my entire quarterly bonus. I needed that money for the October property taxes. Living on the edge of town meant the nearest decent rental was a 40-minute drive from my office. If I left for a week, I didn't know whose couch I could crash on without starting a family war. We stay married on paper, I told him. My voice remained flat. You pay every cent of those loans back. You find a way to clear the kids' names. We live in separate rooms. You don't touch my food. You don't touch my drinks. And you stay out of my way. He rubbed his chin while looking at the table. We keep it for now. But the second those loans are gone and I find a way to handle the insurance, we're done. He nodded slowly. I can do that. After the contract, the house felt different. To keep the neighborhood Facebook group unsuspecting, I posted photos of the kids at the park and liked posts about bake sales. I played the part of the happy wife to avoid questions. Inside, the air grew stale. John and I stopped speaking unless the conversation concerned the children or the bills. Every morning, I woke up at 6:15 a.m. By 7 a.m. sharp, I logged into my system. Any slip-up could cost me the bonus, and those property taxes still loomed. During lunch breaks, I spoke with a lawyer in the city. I specifically picked someone who didn't know any of John's old frat buddies. Before the confrontation, I'd tried talking to Carly a few times. She had just given me a condescending smile and told me I was overthinking things. I knew if I used a local lawyer, John would have a friend in the office within an hour. The retainer fee was a shock. It cost more than I had in my personal savings. 2 weeks later, I walked into the garage. John leaned against the workbench, staring at his phone. Framed certificates for his NFL season tickets hung on the wall. He had bragged about those tickets to Carly and the rest of the group for years. I'm selling the tickets, I said. John looked up, his brow furrowing. Why? I need a lawyer, John. A real one. Not a paperwork one. I'm selling the tickets to pay the retainer. He started to raise his voice, but he stopped when I looked at him. He turned back to his phone and stared at the screen. Using a verified exchange, I handled the transaction. The money hit my account in 48 hours. I immediately sent the wire transfer to the lawyer's office. The house remains quiet. We eat dinner in a heavy silence. John doesn't whistle anymore. Sometimes he looks at me from across the room. I don't care what he thinks. Yesterday, during a break from the Dayton shipments, I logged into the credit monitoring site for the kids. I watched the numbers. The site flagged the first of the predatory loans as disputed. After checking my own score, I saw it had gone up 12 points. Leaning back in my chair, I let out a breath. I'll take the win. Thank you so much, Catherine, for having the courage to share your journey with us. It is absolutely heartbreaking to hear how John Watson could betray your trust so deeply, stealing the financial futures of your own children. To add to that, the fact that he conspired with his brother-in-law, Carly Leach, to chemically sedate you just to hide his tracks is truly chilling. No one should ever feel like a prisoner in their own home, especially under the guise of helping them sleep. Catherine has taken a very calculated approach to her recovery, treating her marriage like a failing business merger to protect her children's health insurance and her own financial stability. But this leaves us with a tough question for the community. Do you think staying married on paper is a brilliant strategic move to secure the kids' future? Or is it a dangerous compromise that allows John to avoid immediate accountability? We want to hear from you. Please leave your advice and thoughts for Catherine in the comments below. If you found this story powerful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a confession. We'll see you in the next one.